She's in the closet. Oh.
Okay. All right. Is it two? All right. Call the meeting to order for the LAFCo for Wednesday, March 21st, 2018 at 2:30. Roll call.
Commissioner Cosgrove,
Present.
Commissioner Draper, Commissioner Horsley,
Here.
Commissioner Martin, Commissioner Rarbach, and Chair O'Neill.
Here. Okay, next item is the consent agenda. Is there any questions about the consent agenda? I have no yellow cards. So,
I would move approval of the consent agenda items A and B.
is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next is the item number 6, legislative and policy. Oh, excuse me, public comments for items not on the agenda. I have no yellow cards. Did you want to speak? No? Okay. So next is item number 4, LAFCo file number 1717, minor sphere of influence amendment and detachment. Staff?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. You have a staff report dated March 14th for this proposal, which is a proposal to amend the sphere of influence of the town of Atherton and detach a portion of a parcel from the town. One correction there is that because the spheres of influence for Atherton and Redwood City are shared in terms of Atherton has a coterminous boundary and a sphere of influence that's coterminous with this boundary, and the territory that is in North Fair Oaks is in the sphere of influence of the city of Redwood City. It's actually a sphere amendment of both Atherton and Redwood City. So it's taking this split parcel, the portion that's split in Atherton, removing it from Atherton sphere and adding it to the Redwood City sphere. And again, it's a minor sphere amendment. The request is submitted by petition, and it requested the detachment of a portion of 501 Palmer Lane from the town of Atherton. The parcel is split by the city-county boundary. Jean, can you make the... it's split by the city-county boundary, and this map here shows the unincorporated area of North Fair Oaks, and it shows that parcel's location on Palmer Lane and the city boundary crossing through it. And if we could get the next slide. And this slide shows more clearly that you have this oddly shaped parcel that is outlined in yellow, and then the dashed black line is the city boundary. The town has consented to detachment, and the town and the county have adopted resolutions of zero property tax exchange. The resolutions are required by Revenue and Tax Code even if there is no transfer of property tax, and this is unique in that while the parcel is split by the town-county boundary, the entire parcel is located in a tax rate area in which no share of the 1% property tax has ever been distributed to the town, so the detachment will have no fiscal impact to the town. The March 14th report details information provided by various county departments, including information from the San Mateo County Planning Department regarding consistency with the county's general plan, that the detachment would be consistent with the county's general plan and land use on the property would be consistent with adjacent areas. Information from the town of Atherton indicates that their minimum 43,560 square foot or 1 acre lot size would preclude annexation of the entire parcel into Atherton because it wouldn't meet the minimum lot size. Corrected information since the report was written is that the residents, in addition to the residents fronting 501 Palmer, there's also a legal non-conforming cottage was actually the first structure on the property. The proponents seek to, once the parcel is located wholly within the county, seek to subdivide to allow for construction of one more single-family home fronting San Benito. The factors that LAFCo must consider are found on pages 2 through 5 of the report, and the sphere determinations are found on page 5. applicable factors that are underscored with this application are section 56668F, which addresses the boundaries, and it states the definiteness and certainty of the boundaries of the territory, the nonconformance of proposed boundaries with lines of assessment or ownership. And so this proposal amends the boundaries of the town to conform with the property owner, the parcel lines. And in regard to 56668.3, which is a factor the commission has to consider when there's a detachment from a city, the detachment has no impact on the town because the town has never received property tax or provided services to it. The requested minor sphere amendment and detachment will allow the property owners to subdivide and construct a single-family home that would not otherwise be permitted with the split land use jurisdictions, or if the entire parcel were annexed to the town. The project is exempt from CEQA because it does not change the geographical area in which previously existing powers are exercised, and that's categorical exemption 15320. There's a request to waive conducting authority proceedings, and this would make sense because it's 100% consent of the landowners, so holding a protest hearing would just be a redundant exercise. The recommendation is to adopt the sphere of influence determinations that are found on page 6 and amend the spheres of influence of both the town and the city of Redwood City to exclude this portion of 501 parcel 501 Palmer from the town of Atherton and include it in the Redwood City sphere, and then approve LAFCo file 1717 allowing for detachment of a portion of 501 Palmer from the town of Atherton and waive conducting authority proceedings. And that concludes my remarks. The property owners are here in the audience if you have questions for them.
Is there any questions from committee? Don?
Yeah, I have a question. Actually, it's some ways little. I mean, that's fine. I have no problem with this. Kind of confusing. It looks like the smaller part of the parcel stays in Atherton. Is that right? And then the rectangular, or is it the other way around?
The previous to the map that shows the parcel in detail. Thank you. So no,
Oopsie.
So this originally, there we go. This parcel originally included included the parcel that's in Atherton next to the skinny part of the parcel. And it was back in years ago, they were allowed to subdivide and they sold that parcel. So what's happening here is you're now going to see the boundary would just follow, the Atherton boundary would follow the yellow parcel line to the bottom. So that odd shaped, the bottom piece is going to now be out of Atherton and in the county. So you're going to see a jag there.
So Atherton is in the top part.
Atherton is below.
Below.
This
Yeah.
small part, yeah.
Yeah, if you go, Gene, to the previous map, please.
I know. Okay. It just seems well.
Okay, so this map shows that all of
okay.
North Fair Oaks. Okay.
Okay.
So this shows the parcel 501 Palmer, and it shows the area to the south below it.
Yeah,
This is
I see.
Atherton,
I got it.
and
I got it. But now the parcel that's in North Fair Oaks, that looks like that could be subdivided.
so now we'll go back to that other detail parcel. So what they're proposing is that once all of the parcel is out of the Atherton and in the county, you would really follow this lot line here. So this would stay intact, and you'd see this.
Yeah. And you could subdivide that, I assume, because
Right.
you have basically
Correct.
two streets. Oh, okay.
Correct.
Just curiosity. That's,
I'm
okay.
sorry the report didn't make that more clear.
The diagram actually makes it clear. I just wanted clarification on it, though.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff or the owners? Okay, I open up the public comment. I have no cards.
I will then a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Okay, public, do we vote on that?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, vote please.
Aye. So, I'll make a motion to approve the proposed minor sphere of influence sphere of influence amendment and detachment of a portion of 501 Palmer Lane from the town of Atherton.
Second. Okay, comments? Please vote.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 5, consideration of adoption of draft proposed net operating budget for fiscal year 18-19, continuance required.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I should have probably done just a brief memo to you that each year LAFCo has considered the proposed budget in March and the adopted in May. And it's a statutory requirement that these be done in 2 separate hearings and that it be done before July 1. What I'm recommending to the commission is that we either hold a special meeting in April to consider the proposed budget. Doing that would allow for the opportunity to schedule strategic planning partnered with that if commissioners are available. Otherwise, in the alternative, if commissioners aren't available in April, a recommendation would be to consider the proposed budget in May and have a special meeting in June for the final budget to meet the deadlines required in the law.
Any comments from commissioners?
Nope.
My only comment is I imagine it would be easier to get a special meeting in April, May versus June. Yeah, just because of vacations. That's the only comment I would make. Any other comment? Okay, so we need a motion for this, or just,
I will just poll the commissioners to make sure we can get a quorum for the April. It would be the 3rd Wednesday in April, which typically we leave open for this room. Thank you.
let's see, I could do it. So, I
Okay.
guess we have a quorum for April?
I'm sure we do, I think.
Okay. So, you have,
Offline, I'll pull the commission
okay.
email.
Okay, so you have what you need?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, next item on the agenda is item 6A, Legislative and Policy Committee, Legislative Report.
Yes, you have a report dated March 14th that summarizes the major bills that are being tracked by LAFCo and that were of interest to the Legislative and Policy Committee. I can answer any questions you have about the bills that are highlighted. Those are AB 2238, AB 2050, SB 778, and SB 1215. And the members of the Legislative Committee may have comments they'd like to make.
Okay, any comments from the committee? No? Okay, there's no comments from the committee. So, move on. Next item, consideration of adoption of amended policy language regarding water resiliency and climate change.
Just very briefly, you've got a staff report dated March 14th, which explains that the policy committee, Legislative and Policy Committee, asked that this policy language be placed on the January 21 Commission agenda for information, but that it not be adopted until it could be circulated to the cities and special districts. And so, and at that meeting, there was a little bit of wordsmithing, and so the language that's on the staff report reflects what was discussed at your January meeting. These policies were sent to cities and special districts, and there were no comments or inquiries. And it is recommended that the commission accept public comment and adopt these as they're written in the report.
Okay. I open the public hearing for this. Seeing no one and having no cards, I'm going to make a motion.
Well, okay, I'll make a motion.
What, to close the public hearing? Yeah.
I don't think we have to have a public hearing, but I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
He said to take public comments.
Give it a, well,
Oh, I see what you mean.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
So now if comments, if there are no other comments, I'd make a motion to approve the adoption of the amended policy language regarding water resiliency and climate change.
Okay, please vote.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes 6-0. Next is number 7, California Association of and Local Agency Formation Commissioners White Paper, State of the Art on Agricultural Preservation, information only.
And yes, I wanted to bring this to the Commission's attention. There is no recommendation from staff that the Commission adopt a policy related to agricultural preservation, and as noted in the report, in San Mateo County, there are pretty strong measures that are in place that protect agriculture from being annexed to cities or from the extension of water or sewer to them. And I don't think at this time it would be necessary to adopt a policy, but I wanted to make these available to you.
Any questions? Okay, next item is number 8, finalize San Mateo County sea level rise vulnerability assessment.
And again, I think that there may be comments from the Commission on this. I wanted to put this on the Commission for your information, but also to just help make the public aware of the document and the work that's going on. I think that this document will also prove helpful as we move forward with municipal service reviews and in considering the possibility of how agencies are responding and what they have in place to respond to sea level rise.
Well, I'll just make a comment. That I know that if you look at the sea level rise and erosion maps, I think we on the coastside think of ourselves as being really vulnerable. And we do have, you could see, the potential for lots of erosion, all from Daly City, always down, probably even San Francisco as well. But on the bay side, they are the amount of land that is susceptible to sea level rise is really astounding. It's probably in a neighborhood of between 10 and 20% of the landmass of San Mateo County. It's amazing how extensive that is. So it's going to require a lot of coordination between all the cities, the county, the state, and federal government. Because you have to think the economy of San Mateo County is part of what drives the economy in the country. There's all these major corporations. Of the top 25 high-tech companies, 13 are in San Mateo County, and they're right in that bayside. So it's something to be very concerned about.
Ann?
When I read this report, I already had known that we were the most vulnerable to sea level rise in the state of California. What I was surprised to learn we're one of the 5 most vulnerable in the United States. And so this is a major problem for us. So I was very proud of us to have a policy on that, saying that we're open to different ways of resolving these issues. So I think that that's a good thing. When we get into municipal reviews, before we think that we're going to do the next one, we might want to talk about what do we want to have included in it, because there's been discussions about sea level rise and wildland fires and other major sort of catastrophic things that have happened that we all might want to consider what we might want to have in one of those, the next round, if that's a good idea.
I think one thing I think we need to look at, though, is if you look at the bay side, it is sea level rise. On the coast, it is erosion. And I think those are 2 different battles that will need to be fought. And I think we should be conscious of that. And I also think, and I don't know how LAFCo would, be a part of this, is I know Supervisor Horsley was there when Jackie Spear was talking that in order to qualify for outside funding, it's much better to have several jurisdictions go together, like, Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, and the county to cover the coast. And is that something LAFCo should consider enabling or being a part of or whatever? And I don't know the answer. I'm just kind of rhetorically asking that question, because you get more clout because you have more people. And if you look at the other side, the Bay side, I mean, there's a lot of jurisdictions. Because if the neighbor doesn't fix the problem, it cuts around, right? So Daly City should fix theirs and Pacifica, otherwise they both go down. So I don't know if that's something LAFCo would want to tackle, or how we would do it, or, I'm asking the question is basically.
Question, do you know, because of where the airport is, do you know whether San Francisco has a plan? Because my understanding is that that's their property.
Yeah.
Do you know if the LAFCo there has started anything like this?
This actually came out of the Office of Sustainability for the county, and I am sure that San Francisco is working on something. I'm not aware of what it is they're doing. Considering the value and importance of an international airport, I'm sure that they were at a minimum included in the preparation of this report.
Thank you.
Anecdotally, I've heard that they are already armoring the runways and stuff. Oh, really? I've heard that anecdotally. I haven't seen anything paper. So, Harvey, or Josh?
Half Moon Bay is right in the middle of preparing its local coastal program, and sea level rise is okay, and sea level rise is definitely being considered. And you're absolutely right; it's erosion and more high tides coming, and combined with sea level rise. The Ocean Protection Council says that there's a possibility that just straight sea level rise is going to be 10 feet by 2100. So it's a real issue. It really has to be considered in the context of protecting our coast on both bayside and coastside.
Josh?
Just curious, has Santa Clara County LAFCO incorporated any kind of sea level rise vulnerability assessments into their service reviews or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
You know, if they
At the upcoming staff workshop, there's going to be discussion of this, so I'll come back with good information.
so we're kind of leading the charge.
Once we do it, we'll be leading the charge.
Have they discussed it at all at a public
not
meeting
sure.
like we are?
I'm not sure.
Well, that's why on the policies that we just adopted, which says the Commission supports multi-agency collaboration and governance models that provide risk reduction solutions to sea level rise and other measures to adapt to climate change. When you have that meeting, if you could ask if other LAFCOs have created policies or taken action, because I think it would be good to learn from others if they've done that to see where we are.
I almost also, since between an application and LAFCO approving it is quite a time lag, isn't it? I mean, like year or so? Well, maybe it's a rhetorical question, but maybe there should be some sort of expedited ability that if, let's say, Pacifica, Half Moon Bay, and the county want to apply for some grant funding from the federal government, that it's an expedited formation of a JPA or whatever that entity is, because of the deadlines.
If it's a JPA, it wouldn't go through LAFCO, so that's one less hurdle for the JPA. I'm not, if you're talking about forming, say, some sort of countywide district or something like that, it would be a time-consuming process, at least a year.
I mean, maybe we need to talk to our assemblyman to talk about a legislation of some sort or whatever to expedite it. Am I wrong? You give me a look. I just
No, it's just I think what you're pointing out is that there's got to be like a single agency I think that's kind of what the Congresswoman was talking about, is that having a single agency is kind of difficult for multiple agencies. They have some somewhat different interests in some cases, and so as a consequence, it's difficult to come up with a coordinated response. But it's not impossible. I think probably the highest priority, I hate to say it's not the co-sited. Co-site actually, in a lot of ways, has probably more time to deal with this than the base site. The base co-site is somewhat higher elevations. And I think there are some mitigating things that you can do. In fact, we're working on. If you looked at my Facebook, we're working with the Harbor District, and they have about 200,000 cubic yards of sand. And so, and the reason that's significant is that one of the ways of protecting against erosion is by replacing the sand that is trapped in the breakwater and at the harbor. And so we are going to store, well, at least we're working on storing some of the about 1,600 cubic yards on our the airport, not SF International, but our airport. And then they believe they're going to get permission to slurry that sand over onto Surfers Beach. When they can do that, that'll slow down the erosion on the whole south coast. You still have problems with the north part of the coast, and that it's because of the geology of some of the embankments, and that's going to be a much more difficult problem. On the bay side, San Francisco, for example, is talking about, I think, about $1 billion project taking care of their Embarcadero. The Embarcadero was actually built in the 1890s, I believe, and so they're looking at putting I think a bond issue, maybe a couple $100 million or so, but we're going to have to figure out the same kind of thing, and it can't be jurisdiction by jurisdiction. But that's what it's happening right now, is that San Mateo rebuilds their levees. Foster City now has to build their levees up. East Palo Alto has their levees. We've got to deal with the creeks, and we are dealing with them. And so there is a committee the county has formed. Actually, Dave Pine did, called the Water Committee. And they're looking, exploring, is there some possible way of having, we don't want to take over, or I don't think this committee wants to take over land use issues or decisions for the cities, but is there some kind of a flood control or water district or whatever you want to call it that encompasses the whole bayside so they can act in concert with each of the cities. But the cities would have to buy into that. And if we can do that, then I think, the federal government's not going to cover all of our costs. To be frank, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But you might be able to get 20% from the federal government, maybe 20% from, the state, but the rest of it's going to be borne by taxpayers, by property owners. And that just is, we've got major facilities on that whole bayside.
So isn't the Water Committee a committee of the city county group?
CCAG, yes.
CCAG. And
it is.
so that discussion's going on there.
Yes.
I don't know the actual outcome of those discussions, but they're having a meeting the 30th of this month.
That's right.
And so we'll hear more about it.
Yes, and they're going to be talking about all the things that we have done on the coast side as one of the subsets.
Yes. Anyway, I'm going to attend that, just FYI,
Good.
to learn more. But I guess it's important that we keep on top of this and sort of know what the discussion is of the cities in the county on that subject.
Just to bore all of you a little bit more, on the bay side, there are all these creeks. Now, one of the, rising, we know that the bay is rising. There are tidal gauges that are at the Golden Gate, and we know that it's risen almost a foot since the 1890s. So we know it's rising. And what happens is that, we also have all these creeks, freshwater creeks, that flow into the bay. And because the bay is rising, and because of king tides, those creeks no longer can drain all those communities. So that's why we're ending up with bayside flooding in areas like around East Bayshore and Belmont and Coleman Creek and San Francisco Creek, flooded always from Palo Alto, East Palo Alto, and parts of Menlo Park. So we do have projects working on those creeks actually, and doing essentially making them somewhat larger so they can handle more water. There's another major one called the Bayfront Canal in Redwood City. So those are our really priorities for now, are taking care of the inflow of water, the creeks, and then eventually it's going to be things like increasing levees. It's going to be, I don't think we're going to abandon any lands, but some of the lands that are now, for example, salt ponds, will probably go back to marshland. So there's a variety of strategies that are not necessarily building seawalls.
So actually, when you go to the LAFCo conference, it would be interesting to see if there's any, anything coming up with LAFCOs statewide in this issue. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Moving on to item number 9, appointment of public member recruitment committee.
I need to recuse myself on this item.
Okay. So, staff?
Yes, thank you. Just the government code for the appointment of the public member requires that the public member receive an affirmative vote from at least one special district, one county, and one city member. So the request for a subcommittee or a committee to do the recruitment would ideally be one of each. The recruitment notice went out, and the deadline for application is April 16th. We are getting several applications. Both public member and alternate public member have indicated they want to apply. And so it's just requested that you appoint a committee that would be able to meet sometime before the May meeting to make a recommendation to the commission after interviews.
Okay.
I assume you want one from county, one from city, one from special district
Yes,
in the
please.
committee? Okay. Is there volunteers?
I'll do it.
Okay. Special district should I nominate?
She just said she's going
Yeah, I know, but I was thinking, I guess I can do the city. Do you want to nominate Warren?
Nominate Warren.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Maybe if we have that the same day as the special meeting for the budget, if that's possible. Because if we're going to have a special meeting in April for the budget, is that okay?
It's fine. It's fine with me.
I just figure,
If that's copacetic, is that okay?
Just coming back, I won't be here in April, so the
I don't think we
You-
need.
you
I
can-
don't think we need to interview you. We know you.
no. Anyway, so just
You said-
FYI.
we could Skype.
You can
do it.
submit it.
If it would be possible, I could like to just offline email and find out availability. And
Yeah. that'd
does
be
that
good.
work?
Yeah.
Okay. So that you have everything you need for that? Okay.
We will grill you, Ann.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I can do it by phone.
Okay.
I am phone available.
Okay.
Okay, number 10, commissioner staff report. Any commissioners have
Does that
anything?
tell you more about sea level rise? No, I won't do that.
I could tell you Pacifica's local coastal plan.
Yeah, I bet you're surprised I knew that much, but
I wasn't surprised. You're the guru. Yes,
thanks.
And okay, Martha, do you have anything?
No.
So there's nothing from the commissioner. Okay, I guess adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Approved. Yes, aye.
Aye.
Aye.